What are we talking about?
Oh my God. Bro, this is our 10th episode.
Holy crap, this is our 10th episode?
Yeah.
Time really flies when you're in quarantine.
Well, we've only done two. Hey, we've only done 2 of these in quarantine. So, yeah,
It
hold
feels
up on
like
using
so
quarantine
much longer.
as your explanation. Sorry, I'm just distracted by Jesse Ventura.
Mamaya na si Jesse. Ooh, where's Jesse Ventura? I want to see Jesse Ventura.
No, it's a Jesse Ventura lunchbox.
Yeah, I could get behind that. Okay, fine. Intro. Go.
Hello, everybody.
Who the hell are you? Who are you even now? Hello? 2 hours later. Matthew, go for it.
Oh, I thought you were doing it.
No, I thought you were doing it.
Okay, all right. What is our intro? Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3 Point Landing. We are stuck at home, but we're still recording. I am Matthew.
I'm Misha.
And let's go.
Yeah, this is the second episode of our quarantine sessions. Today, we're going to be talking about all the stuff that we have been watching while we've been stuck at home. And not all of it is necessarily on Netflix, believe it or not. I don't know about you, but I am just looking forward to this to end so that I can stay indoors voluntarily.
Yeah. I have a confession to make. I forgot to pay my Netflix. No, I didn't forget to pay for my Netflix. I can't pay my Netflix.
Why can't you pay for your Netflix?
Because so I use a prepaid credit card to pay for everything that requires a credit card.
Yeah.
It allows me to put financial limits on how much I spend on services and stuff like that. And now that the banks are almost always full or too far to access, I haven't gotten around to refilling the card. So Netflix just went, whoop, you couldn't pay. And actually, it used to be Netflix could take PayPal because that's what I got a lot of. I'm sitting on quite a decent amount of PayPal monies right now.
I wish I had monies.
But they don't take PayPal anymore. Like they stopped taking PayPal from the Philippines because the Philippines has a great reputation of people refunding or whatever, or just like trying to screw around with the system to get PayPal money back.
Right.
Yeah. So I've had to live like someone without Netflix. Oh my God.
There.
Yeah. And so I hope.
Okay, fine. So what have you been watching? I know you've been playing video games all day, but what have you been watching when you're not playing with your thumbs?
Well, sometimes I work.
But doesn't it get in the way of much needed leisure?
I know, right?
God, work. Fine. Tell me about this work.
Well, some of it involves filling in game store catalog information. Well, wait, Were you serious or were you or were you just joking?
I can't even tell anymore. I've been indoors for so long. No, but seriously, what have you been up to? I mean, besides playing games and working and whatnot.
I have been binging on a lot of YouTube stuff.
No kidding. Like what?
Well, I mean, I think I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but for me, because there's a YouTube app on the PlayStation 4, it's a way of life for me. I've considered subscribing to Curiosity Stream, to Mubi, and to all these other streaming services, but they don't have a PlayStation app. So why, I don't want anything that is inconvenient to me.
I'm pretty sure they'll survive without your contribution.
Yeah. But so there's a lot of stuff I've been following. The thing I did most recently of note is I've started backing this guy named Jacob Geller.
Okay.
He has a Patreon. So this guy, Jacob Geller, he is an essayist or someone who makes videos about video games. And that sounds like the most mundane thing because there's a lot of
Not at all.
Yeah.
What makes this one different?
I mean, video game content goes hand in hand with the domain. But what Jacob does is he ties it with cultural analysis and critical analysis. I think the thing I value the most out of this work is that there's a sense of willingness to bear his emotions and his politics from the heart. Let me speak to this. Like, for example, one of his videos is called "Does Call of Duty Believe in Anything?" And it's a great video. Like, I mean, it's very easy to dunk on Call of Duty, and that is technically what he does. He looks at Call of Duty's the kind of stories that the most recent game told, Modern Warfare, and what it's trying to say about the world around it, and like how war is waged, and try to reconcile that with the fact that as part of marketing, the people who write and make Call of Duty games are like, this game is not a political game. Like, that's the claim that they stand by, because they're trying to avoid sort of like, they want to, people who make consumer products like video games, they try to avoid being dragged into the culture war that has come to define the way we talk about entertainment nowadays. And they do that by claiming their games are not political, even though when a game is about two different countries engaged in conflict over resources and, of course, the security of the world, politics is going to get involved. And he kind of like, he takes that apart. But the goal isn't, I've exposed the sham or the lie that is, Activision and Call of Duty. But rather, the goal is to say, like, well, if we take them at their word, what does Call of Duty believe in? What does it say about the state? And it's it's a really, really good video. He's got other videos like Anatomy and Control. He talks about this game called Anatomy about how it takes place inside a haunted house, and another popular game about called Control, which takes place in a haunted office building, and tries to like mix them together and explore like the things that art and literature have to say about haunted houses and the people who live in them. And this is the kind of work that he builds on. So I've decided, like, since I really like the fact that it's not just, oh, I'm going to be smarter than everybody by telling you, this is why I believe Mario is the best game ever, or this is why this game is superior. Like, he's not going to those like weird claims of objective validation or evaluation, but rather, doing real informed cultural and critical analysis. And so I've decided to back him up on Patreon.
Okay, fine. That sounds all good and well, but for me, okay, this is my take on it, right? As much fun as it would be to look into the social cultural ramifications of, let's say, Call of Duty, I think at the end of the day, I don't think anybody boots up these games with the intention of looking at the geopolitical state of the world or the statement that the producers were trying to make when they were making it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Like, it would be delusional to say that people engage with popular entertainment for the sake of highbrow reasons 100% of the time, all the time. But I do think it's meaningful and important to evaluate and criticize art, even if it has absolutely no impact on the audience that it is intended for.
I guess that's fair from just putting yourself outside of that sphere.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, like when I put a game in, I just want to be taken out of the world for a little while, honestly. That's why what I've been finding with my whole gaming, with my reborn gaming status, I'm more partial to games with engaging narratives now than I am just to senseless violence. Or to graphics for the sake of graphics, or action for the sake of action. I'm really enjoying stuff where I can engage with the characters and follow a narrative, to the point that what keeps me going isn't that I want to shoot more guys or beat up more baddies. It's more like I want to know what happens next.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love that stuff. Like, for me, I think I identify with the same feeling. Like, I don't like playing games for pure game. I like them for stories and characters. I think stories and characters are the vessels that carry us and motivate us through an experience. So yeah. Like, nobody goes to Marvel movies. Nobody would go to Marvel movies if the characters weren't inherently interesting. You can put all the spectacle you want. You can put all the convoluted plots that you want. And make it into some kind of weird, twisty, lost J.J. Abrams style thing. But if the characters aren't compelling, no one's going to care.
Absolutely. You'd end up with something like Transformers. Everything after the first one was just eye candy and not much else.
Yeah, and I really feel the way you feel, sincerely, because your relationship with games and my relationship with games skews very differently from the kinds of relationship that my other fellow hardcore gamers have, which is they're very engaged with And there's a valid way of engaging with games. They're very engaged with systems and mechanics. Like they love taking apart, how strategies and builds of their characters and skills and levels. Like they love all these little mechanical bits that make up the game, and that's how they engage with them. Like whether they represent this sort of beautiful, elegant design. And I'm like,
right.
I can appreciate that. Like I play Civilization and Battletech for the tactical stuff, but At the end of the day, I don't like Battletech as much as I do like XCOM or the upcoming Gears Tactics, because Battletech barely has any characters. The characters are just flat.
Yeah, but you get to walk around in giant robots.
Yeah. That's a game for me needs to serve at least some of my desires, and it needs, like, if the game is not mechanically interesting, I'm not going to play it unless the characters are good, right? Like that's what I'm saying.
That's fair.
Yeah, but Battletech gets away with having no characters because at least the gameplay is fun.
Speaking of having no characters, but the gameplay is fun, something I've been watching increasingly on YouTube is histories of old video games and arcade games, because like it's just fascinating to see how things that you just took for granted as cornerstones of your childhood gaming experience, all the incredible, ridiculous, eyebrow-raising histories behind a lot of them. There's so much backstabbing and politics and all sorts of other things for something that is ostensibly a children's product.
I mean, well, what you're talking about, if you're talking about like video games are products of culture and they're works of art and they're works of design. So there's always going to be a story in there somewhere. And those stories have the potential to be just as wacky, dramatic, or weird as some of the craziest stories we hear about how television shows and movies are made.
Fair enough. But you don't think about that when you're a 10-year-old trying to figure out how to play Street Fighter.
It's fair, but maybe I skew differently. I think, okay, so these channels that you talk about.
I don't know. I just imagine like when you were a 10-year-old, you're probably like Stewie on Family Guy.
maybe. Actually, I was going to get at that, which is that one of the things I always tell people is that one of the reasons why I don't get excited about, one of the reasons why I don't get attracted to content that's about trivia and facts and stuff like that is, and I say this with absolutely no arrogance whatsoever, is because I know a lot of those things, and I don't maintain that as a point of pride. It's not like, ooh, look at me, I know everything about Sid Meier's Civilization. It's just an accident of my growing up. It's an accident of the way I consumed culture as a child, and so the script for me has flipped now that I'm less interested in trivia and more interested in analysis. But less about me. What I want to know is what channels you've been watching that have focused on video game trivia and stories and lore, because those things, hearing people talk about it still excites me in a way, because those stories are just interesting on their own merits.
Right.
Like, what have you been watching about? Which channels are these? Which
I don't know if I want to tell you, because now it sounds like it's so lowbrow. No. All entertainment is valid. I'm not trying. It's all consumption is valid. Right. Okay. Fine. Basically, what I love, I actually like the Gaming Historian. To be perfectly honest, is a little bit dry, but I like that he does a lot of research into his stuff. Whether he's talking about a classic release or a piece of obscure ancient hardware, even if he's kind of dry, you can always tell that he's excited about it. He's not crass about it. He's not like the angry video game nerd who just curses for the sake of cursing a lot of the time. And it's not nowhere near as novel after 10 years as some people seem to think it is. But with a Gaming Historian, he really takes an effort to put things into context. And I genuinely appreciate that.
I think the Gaming Historian does produce valuable work, because what he does, I think his name is Norman Caruso or something like that. Yeah, Norman Caruso.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, some of these topics that I've seen are things I do know, but I appreciate the fact that they're organized and they're easy to find and they're easy to index. So, and I think that's a valuable pursuit. Knowledge and facts and trivia should always be easily available and presentable in an accessible and an engaging format. And that's what Gaming Historian accomplishes.
Well, here's the thing. Here's something else. The thing about like growing up as an all-around nerd and all-around geek, right? You take it for granted that you know these things. I admit that also to some degree, but you have to realize that not everybody had access or has access or bothers to read or consume the content that we do. So I think it's great that stuff like this exists for a general audience. Honestly,
I'm very aware that where I come from is a bizarre position, which is the
you are
position
rather bizarre.
Yeah, with a bizarre position, which is consuming information as leisure. You know what I mean? Like that's something all nerds enjoy. You, me, like we love consuming information for leisure, and that's why for those people who don't and want to require information to be presented in a deliberately entertaining fashion because the information itself is not entertaining on its own terms, is a very valuable service.
I guess.
3-point landing.
What else was I gonna say? Another one that I enjoy is Top Hat Gaming Man. I think I've mentioned this before. And
I think so.
He's a British. I don't know he's a British YouTuber, and he likes to look at. Recently, he did a whole run of fighting game documentaries. Sometimes he puts up like 2 a week, I think, and it's really it's really good stuff because he's really he's well researched. He speaks well, and I generally like his writing. But what I appreciate about it when he talks about, say, something like Street Fighter versus X-Men, he'll put it in the context of the other fighting games or crossover games that were out at the time. And he tries to find, he also makes an effort to find contemporary reviews of the titles that he talks about. And he talks about how these games have aged well or haven't aged well, talks about their legacies and that sort of thing. And he got so popular, in fact, that he was able to actually stop his job a year or 2 ago, just concentrating completely on this.
Yeah.
On making content, which I think is incredible.
Is YouTube his primary income stream or now? Because
it is now. It is now. But that was true up until a couple of days ago because YouTube, unfortunately, I don't know if you're familiar, has once again changed their algorithm. So it makes it very difficult to actually make a living off of YouTube videos. For everybody out there who wants to be a YouTube star, it is increasingly difficult because you don't know what the rules are going to be from 1 month to the next.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking at his channel right now, actually. Top Hat Gaming Man. Yeah. And I'm seeing that he has the post from a week ago called I'm Not Happy, I Hate Feeling Like This. And a post he just did yesterday called I'm Done. And I take it, without opening the video, that he's going to speak to the fact that the income stream hasn't necessarily dried up, I guess, but it's definitely unreliable. So 1 month, you can make X $1,000 in advertising revenue.
Right.
And then the next month you'll make like half of it or double that. And, for those in the long stretch of things, that's still better than a working class income, but it also makes financial planning incredibly difficult.
I would imagine. But let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, YouTube as a platform. Do you remember what it was like when it first started, like 10, 12 years ago? It was something that nobody had ever seen. This was the place you went to look for videos that you couldn't find anywhere else. This is where people put up viral videos. This is where they previously had sent through what message boards and emails. This is where people put up videos of let's say stage performances or concerts that you couldn't find anywhere else. This was a place where people could just share.
There was a time that YouTube became the place to store like comedy sketches from lesser known comedians who because of YouTube became much more successful than they would be.
Absolutely. That's why it's just incredible to me that with the success that this platform received, that they would make things difficult for their content creators. Okay, I know that's one way of looking at it, but on the other hand, fine. There are a lot of people who actually abuse the platform, and that's what necessitated some of the changes. But at the end of the day, because Google, who owns YouTube now, has the power to dictate, it leaves a lot of these people high and dry when things change because they have no say in it whatsoever.
Yeah, it's sort of a double bind in the sense that YouTube, Google and YouTube are offering hosting for these videos like for free. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the cost of getting into the ecosystem is zero. But at the same time, like we already know from Facebook and all the other tech companies that, you know, they make money off of not just they make money off of advertising. They make money off of mining for more data and analytics and selling those analytics to other people or other companies or government bureaus who need it or want it. Yes. And but the thing is, when you sign up, they're making it like you should be so lucky to have them, but really they should be so lucky to have you, because for as long as you become a member of all the people who make up the YouTube people, you're just attracting more and more people into it to watch. So the YouTube monster is just like this weird mutant that's just growing bigger and bigger and bigger with each piece being added to it.
Now, don't get me wrong. I mean,
it's like the Borg. It's like the Borg.
We should talk about the Borg in a little bit, but for my part, I think that the mere fact that YouTube exists, I mean, in any form, I mean, as convoluted as it is now, it's still kind of a great equalizer for smaller content creators to talk about things that otherwise probably would never receive an audience from a mainstream outlet. And also they can talk about niche topics or subjects that, you know, you would not imagine anybody else taking on.
Yeah. You know what? Like what you said there, it's like incredibly idealistic 12 years later for you for you to make that assertion. But I think it actually remains true. The biggest difference between the year 2008 and the year 2020 now is another thing you said, which is that it is just now more difficult to monetize and profit off of that niche, because now you're just 5-10 years ago you were just one in 1 billion voices, and now you are one in 10 and 8 billion voices, just screaming out into YouTube, and having your content become profitable is just more difficult. Never mind, and this is a consequence again of a crowded marketplace that is natural and organic to all like creative fields, but it's also a consequence of another thing you talked about: the unreliable, ever-changing, mysterious algorithm that YouTube keeps changing.
I know.
Yeah, and that's why more and more people are turning to alternative income streams, not just Patreon, which is a great way of getting money, but also, by the way, side note, Patreon recently changed its terms now so that they could pull off a greater percentage of your profits.
No kidding.
Patreon. I mean, on the one hand, I'm like, well, they need an operating income. But on the other hand, like, I don't know, we're the ones who are growing your platform.
Oh boy, everything comes down to money, doesn't it?
Yeah, capitalism, baby, capitalism.
Why aren't we making money? How do we get in on that action?
Well, we could monetize this podcast and put it behind a paywall.
I don't want to do that. I love the 10 people who listen to this. So what else have you been watching?
Still more YouTube. I have lots of stuff to share with you. Actually, I think after this show, I'm going to share you with some of the videos that are talking about the YouTube, some of the issues of YouTube that you and I talked about today. And
sure,
if any of them like strike your fancy, are really interesting, we can post them up on the Facebook page for everybody to see.
No, for sure. I mean, let's share all the pages that we've been talking about so that people can see what we're watching and they can decide whether or not they agree with us, or they disagree with us, or just want to pick a fight. I don't know. It's the internet, man. Those 10 fans that we got, you know, they could be vicious.
Well, I'm not sure my mom really wants to fight with me.
You don't know that.
Actually, a nice video channel I want to recommend to you is Game Maker's Toolkit. Okay. It's a series by Mark Brown, a former video games reviewer, but he turned to YouTube content creation. It's all just really clean, really presentable, and engaging content about game design, about how certain video games feel good or play good, and how they make you like. Some of my favorite essays from them are like how video games protect you from your own mistakes, or
really,
like what makes good EA, good AI. Woo, electronic art. Or
video games protect you from your mistakes. Are you talking about the dumbing down of video games? That's
no, but rather like tiny design tools that that protect you. And for example, invisible tutorials, meaning how a video game can be designed so that when you play it for the first 30 minutes, it's teaching you how to play without overtly teaching you how to play.
They're not that invisible.
Yeah, well, he singles out examples because, of course, there are many bad examples.
That is true. I always feel like I'm being pandered to whenever the games start with a tutorial, honestly. But I know that, number one, it cuts down on cost to actually print an instruction manual. And number two, nobody reads instruction manuals anyway.
Yeah, not in the year 2020. I kind of like tutorials, but at the same time, I always feel like there's a way of presenting them that hit a few stumbling blocks. And I could do that. We could talk about video game tutorials in another episode, but sure. I'll tell you one thing I don't like. I don't like a tutorial that says the game will freeze and then it will give you a big text box telling you how to do a thing.
Right.
And then it'll say, press X to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you press X to understand and you close it, the window disappears. And then you have to remember how to do the thing that you just read. And if you forgot about it, you're screwed and you can't open up the panel again to remember how to do it. And I'm like, no. You just either guide me through a proper tutorial wherein, there's a training officer who says, no, you're doing it wrong. Do it again. Or make the informational prompts like something that you do in the game. For example, like it'll tell you to do it and you just do it without pausing the action and all that stuff. But anyway, that's for another episode. Shitty tutorials suck.
Man, wait. I just remembered something about old instruction manuals. Do you remember back in the days when you had to go to these sketchy stores in the mall and they would install the games onto your hard drive or give it to you on a bunch of diskettes or even on a CD? And
are you kidding? I was raised there.
Well, here's the kicker. They'd give you photocopies of the instruction manual.
By give you mean pay? I had to pay for them. Yes.
Well, yes, you did. And back in the 80s and 90s, a lot of the time, if you didn't have the instruction manual, you couldn't get around the copy protection.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to respond to that because you are not talking about my childhood.
No, because you're way older. This is your early adulthood.
Why? Yes.
Tell the children about rudimentary copy protection.
Yeah, my dad would abandon me and my brother in Virra Mall for like 6 hours on a weekend.
I love Green Hills.
Yeah, and in Virra Mall, and for those of you all who aren't from the Philippines or Manila, Virra Mall is this infamous mall that throughout the late 20th century, 80s to 90s, was a hotbed of like bootleg software and lots of like affordable computer hardware. Not
just. It even had like in its sketchy little alleys, it would have, you could find anything from vintage toys, Betamax tapes, VHS tapes, laser discs.
Yeah, it was hipster. It was hipster.
Martial arts weapons. It was ridiculous.
It was hipster before the word hipster existed.
I wouldn't say hipster. No, I wasn't hipster. It was just a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
And a fire hazard.
It was a fire hazard. That thing would go on fire. Fires would break out like twice a year. Easy. That thing was ridiculous.
Oh man, you're making me nostalgic. Not for fire, but for
no, but it was. I was so upset when they renovated it and it became all well lit and clean and respectable. I'm like, I know this is boring.
You read those old 80s cyberpunk novels about the gritty streets and the rain and the neon lights and the cassettes and the videos and all the ancient and all the computers. Like that's literally Virra Mall.
That was Virra Mall. That really was. If
I had an awareness of what cyberpunk was, I would have been. I probably would have been like, it was Saturday night. The rain came down hard. I tucked into an alley past the sugarcane juice vendor.
Man, good times. I mean, you could spend the whole weekend there and only not even see half of it. Okay, go back to the computer store. Go to the games.
Okay, yeah.
Go to your sketchy pirated games.
Yeah, and my dad was friends with a guy with the guy who owned a place called Data Venture, and Data Venture was
I remember video that games. Place. Yeah, so, I remember that place.
So he had a standing arrangement. Now, Data Venture, if I recall correctly, would charge you, I think, I'm not sure if it was 25 pesos or 40 pesos to copy to get the game discs, basically, to copy a disc for you. So you could get, let's say, you get Wolfenstein 3D, and you would like give them 2 discs, and they'd photocopy it, and they'd copy it for you. Right. And my arrangement, because my dad's friends, was like we would be able to copy for free as long as we brought our own diskettes and we did the copying ourselves. So none of the staffers would attend to us necessarily. We would just come in with a stack of discs
and use their computer.
Yeah, and use their computer to manually copy it ourselves. And like when you're 13, this is a fucking big deal, man, because you would have to go. And I'm coming from Paranaque, which is several kilometers down south of Virra Mall. So we're talking like an hour drive. Right, and yeah. So we'd go there and we'd copy the games. And the thing that would be such a bummer, because you know how things were when we were kids, is that we'd copy the games in Virra Mall, and when we get back home, we'd be excited to play them. We'd fight over who gets to play on the computer and all that stuff. And if a disc was busted or if it just didn't copy properly, it's like, well, you got to wait until next week to do it again. You know what I mean? And I think I can't remember the names offhand of some of the games, but there's some games to this day where I remember I tried copying you like 8 times and I could never get you to work. You're like the one that got away.
Like what? Space Quest, Loom.
Yeah, and you think you were talking about copy protection. So this is the thing. Because PC games could be copied so easily,
right?
Manufacturers and publishers had to resort to copy protection to keep their games from being used, even though the copies were quote unquote functionally perfect. And the most popular version of that would be the manual check. Like the game would say, "Oh, before you can proceed, adventurer, tell me what is the ancient lore of this and that and that." And the answer to that question would not be found anywhere except in the manual.
You made it sound so fancy. I mean, you could have just said, "Tell me what the symbol is on page 14.
No, it depends. It actually depends sometimes on the person writing or designing the game. Some of them would just be like, "Before you proceed, what is the second word in the third sentence of the 4th paragraph
exactly.
in page 50 to page 52?"
You didn't need to spell out the lore.
Yeah, some of them would check the lore, and it was a way of disguising it so that people would copy the game and they'd be like, "Oh, there's no real copy protection, but actually it's in the manual." Right. And that's that was funny because what happened was video game companies or creators would start creating elaborate manuals and documentation that supported the world of the game that felt like just extra fluff, but actually was supposed to be informative. While the chumps in the pirating world will be all like, "This is not important," throw it over their shoulder and not provide it with the pirated game. Like they'll just be like, "Oh, this is important because it's not an explicit copy protection device."
Right.
Unlike, let's say, one form of explicit copy protection was the copy protection wheel from Monkey Island. I
love that one.
Yeah, it's fun, but it's obviously a copy protection device. What it is just like it's 2 cardboard wheels pinned together, and you spin them around, and they form different faces of pirates and the year that they were hanged. And so at the start of the game, it would say like, check your dial-up pirate wheel. This pirate was hung in Barbados at what year? And you would rotate it and get the year and stuff like that.
It's funny.
But
sometimes we didn't have the game manual. Sometimes we just have the game. We wouldn't have the manual, so we would guess.
Yeah, guessing. But that depends.
And then if you don't get it, you got to start at the beginning again.
Yeah, but that depends, of course, if the game can be brute forced, like that. Some games have copy protection permutations that are so insane you can't brute force it. In the case of the copy protection wheel, you're talking about what year was this pirate hung, and it's 4 digits, which means you have 9,999 combinations.
Absolutely. But you know what? The first time I encountered that was on the very first Prince of Persia.
Oh, whoa. I don't even remember the copy protection for that one. What was it like?
You enter a room that's full of potions.
That's right.
Every single one is poison, except for the one that's labeled with the letter from a certain page, from a certain paragraph, from a certain sentence in the manual.
Yeah. And I remember chamba lang yun. You had to rely on luck if you didn't have the manual. So you'd go in. And so you'd be like, all right, I'll try this one and that one and that one. And because when you die, you just get booted back to the beginning. You'd be like, well, I'll just do it again. Right?
I just got to tell you, though, that first Prince of Persia, it's a miracle of of motion capture, pixelated
Indeed.
motion capture, but it's also one of the most evil games ever made.
I know, right?
The control was so spotty and the hit detection so specific and the platforming so unforgiving that it's like the makers of that game hated you. They hated you for playing their game, which made you want to beat it all the more.
But that's the thing. Hate was such a common design trope in the earliest PC and console games, which is the idea that for $60 you pay for a game and they could only make so much content. So what they would do is they would make sure that they had an adversarial relationship with the player in matters of challenge. I think the biggest offender of this would be Sierra Online, creator of the Space Quest, King's Quest, and Police Quest games.
Oh man, playing Space Quest, especially if you came off playing a LucasArts adventure game, it was like night and day.
Night and day. I want to get back to that conversation about Sierra versus LucasArts, but I want to focus on Sierra first for a minute, which is that they had a tendency, because these games were only about, if you played them with all the solutions in front of you, the games would be incredibly short.
Right.
So the game puzzle design, because these are point-and-click adventures for those of you who don't know, which means combining objects and talking to people to solve puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
So they would ask you to do trial and error, and there's a lot of trial and error, a lot of punishing you for not having an object at a very specific time, and also if you had an object that was important, it was easy for you to throw it away, and there was nothing in the game to tell you, hey, don't throw that away, that will be important later.
Right.
And the game also had a tendency to punish you with death, with lots and lots of death, and this is about time before autosaves, right? So,
but here's the thing. The thing about that is what I really appreciated about the LucasArts adventures is that they were play tested within an inch of their life, to the point that they wouldn't let you get into a situation where you couldn't win.
Yeah, even the worst, or rather, even the most archaic of the LucasArts games, Maniac Mansion, Zack McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders, and
Damn
Indiana
it! I was going to say Day of the Tentacle, but that was the second one.
Yeah, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Right.
These games had you could die in these games and you could destroy some objects, but there was a sense of how the puzzles were designed that they were intuitive at least, or you could figure them out with common sense. Whereas King's Quest tended to be guess random shit.
Right. And also it was impossible to get rid of an object that you might need later on in LucasArts games.
Yeah, this started with Monkey Island, which is the fourth game on our list, which is pretty early if you think about it. The fact that he could learn this lesson so fast is, I think, testament to how great a company that LucasArts was. In Secret of Monkey Island, in Secret of Monkey Island, there is a bit where they make fun of Sierra. Do you remember this one?
No, I don't. What do they say?
When you arrive in Act 3, when you arrive at Monkey Island, and there's you can go high up on the rocks, and as you go to the edge of the rock, a rock will break apart and you will fall down, and then you will fall, and it'll show a Sierra style. The style is very Sierra-like. It's got the white text and the white box and the black text that says, "Oh, look, you fell and died. It looks like you'll have to start over. Hope you saved your game." That's what it'll say, and then the main character Guybrush will bounce back up from where he fell and land back on the rock plateau.
That's right.
And he'll say, "Rubber tree."
I know. I love that. Because that's what I loved about the LucasArts adventure games. In fact, the whole point wasn't trying to stay alive. The whole point was the story and the puzzles. So, why would you want to enable characters to die?
Yeah.
And okay, fine. Okay, to be fair, it was possible to kill Guybrush. Because one of the boasts that he makes on his quest to becoming a mighty pirate was that he could hold his breath for a half hour. So,
10 minutes, actually.
Sorry, 10 minutes. And the game actually gives you a chance to try that out.
Yeah, when the sheriff of Melee Island throws you into the water,
who is actually
let's not spoil
Pirate LeChuck. Was I not supposed to say that?
You were not supposed to spoil a 30-year-old game.
It's a spoiler to a 30-year-old game. I don't think anyone cares anymore.
That's the joke.
But yeah, you could actually keep Guybrush. He's tied to a rock at the bottom of the port. Mm-hmm. And you have all of these crazy cutting implements just out of his reach. There's like swords, there's scissors, there's knives, there's cutters, and all these things scattered along the floor of the underwater.
Which theoretically would help him cut the rope.
Right. And the whole gag is all you have to do is untie the rope.
No, all you have to do is pick up the rock.
Ah, damn it. Close enough.
pick up the rock, and he puts it in his, and he puts it in, he takes the giant 2 foot idol and puts it in his chest, in his shirt.
He puts it in his bottomless magic bag.
Yeah. And then he just climbs out. But you were saying, like, if you stay there.
If you stay there, then yeah, you die, man.
I don't think I've ever seen this game over screen. I know about the dying tip, but I don't think I've ever put it to the test.
I have. And here's the funny part. I think you can do it in more than one Monkey Island game.
Oh, really?
Yes, they find reasons to put him underwater. It's hilarious.
I know in the second game, you can die, but because Guybrush is telling the story to Elaine,
yeah,
she's like, "Wait, you're dead." Like
clearly you're not.
Yeah, clearly you're not.
I'm not crazy about the second game's ending.
I'm a big fan, but also I was of the age where I was perfectly receptive for it. Like I'm 11 years old or 13 or 12 years old, and I'm just like, what the fuck? And then, like, as you get older, you're like, oh, wow.
You're like, that made no sense. That's why I appreciated that the third one, which is beautiful, by the way. If you can track down a copy, just grab on for dear life and enjoy it. Honestly, the third game. It looks like a Disney movie. It really does. And that's what you're controlling. And it's gorgeous. It's beautifully acted. It's beautifully animated. And the gameplay is just as top-notch as you would expect from LucasArts.
Are we doing a Monkey Island episode? Is that what we're going to do now?
I don't know. Can we do that next time? Can we?
We can do a LucasArts episode. Or Sierra versus LucasArts. Sierra v. LucasArts, Dawn of Adventure.
That's not much of a contest.
Hey, but you can buy The Curse of Monkey Island on Steam for 220 pesos.
Wow,
that's
220 whole pesos?
Yeah, 220 pesos. Yep, and that's in American dollars, $5.
Awesome.
3-point landing.
Just going back to quarantine entertainment. Before we got sidetracked there. Another thing that I like, and this ties back into what I was saying earlier about niche entertainment that has been given a platform. I like watching. I genuinely enjoy watching toy channels. Not unboxing videos, not reviews, but just stuff that looks into the ridiculousness and the whole mystique of these little plastic things that made up chunks of most of our childhoods.
Oh, you gotta share with me those toy channels, because that's a world that I'm not really engaged with.
Seriously? Okay. There's Toy Galaxy, which is fantastic because Toy Galaxy goes into like the history and the background of classic toy properties from years past, like whether it's G.I. Joe, Transformers, Ghostbusters, that sort of thing. Because what's cool that I don't think that, nowadays when a movie comes out, right, or a new show, when these things come out now, people just take it for granted. There's going to be toys, there's going to be merchandising, there's going to be maybe a cartoon to support this product. But back in the 80s, that was the first time that any of this had happened on a wide scale. Back then, it wasn't until the early 80s that the United States Congress overturned a law that previously forbade animated programs to be created that were based on toys, because they didn't want kids to be watching 30-minute toy commercials.
Yeah, I think this topic is now like really widely discussed on many toy history essays, and like I think they even made it the center of the first season of Toys That Made Us on Netflix.
On Netflix. That's right. Right. And one of the first programs that took advantage of this was He-Man, actually, in the Masters of the Universe. And that just exploded. It became a huge property. It became a fantastic, long-lasting franchise that still has fans to this day. They're still making toys based on that. So when you watch Toy Galaxy, you can actually see the enthusiasm and the passion of the guys behind it, because they're just talking about stuff that they loved, and it comes across in every episode that they do. There's another
I'll check this out. I'm looking at the channel right now. Looks pretty cool.
There's another one that's that covers similar material. It's called retro blasting, but the guy there is so incredibly angry at anybody that contradicts him, at anyone that posts anything on his page that he doesn't agree with, that he will devote entire chunks of episodes just refuting it, just being defensive and indignant.
That's not a great attitude to have.
It's really not, but he's got a heck of a collection, can I just say? And in the first few episodes, it was fun because it was something he ran with his wife, the channel. So, well, I mean, it's a shame, really, that he's just so angry that I just couldn't watch it anymore.
Oh, that sucks, man. That sucks. When I mean, like we're all emotional creatures, and we're all
right.
passionate creatures. But when there's room for that. There's room for that in all video channels. If anything, I actually am not attracted to channels where creators try to come off as very like cold and, as you said earlier, dry and I'm too good. I'm too good and too rational to bear my heart, to show my emotions, to feel anything. Right. That's not something that attracts me. But you also have to learn how to harness your emotions and sort of like make peace with how you feel about the things that upset you, so that you can channel it towards making your content better, or at least more engaging.
Or just accept the fact that the mere notion of being on a public platform means that you're open to comments and criticism that can cut either way.
Yeah.
And not everyone's going to agree with you, and you can't do anything about that.
Yeah, and the thing about that also is that you have to choose how much, you have to choose how much oxygen you give your critics, which is to say that I think it would be wrong to say, oh, I'm just going to ignore all the critics, because the audience who is loyal to you will feel more loyal to you if they believe that they can have a reasonable conversation with you about how to make your content better, more appealing, what they like, what they didn't like. Like, that is a valuable relationship to cultivate. But at the same time, you cannot dignify the response. You cannot dignify the people who are obvious haters. You cannot dignify them with responses that waste your time and waste your energy.
I agree with you completely, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay. How are we going to wrap this up?
Oh, I was about to talk about another channel, but...
No, go ahead, please. I want to hear this.
There's so much. I mean, I'm just looking at my subscription tab here. Like, I've got this channel called The Kanipa Effect.
What is that?
This is very interesting. What's
a Kanipa?
Channel, I actually don't know what it is. He has a picture of a penguin as his avatar. Maybe the Kanipa is an obscure breed of penguin or something. I'm not sure.
You never thought to look this up?
Nope.
And you're never going to?
Well, now I am, since you commanded me.
No, I was just making an observation.
Oh, if I type Kanipa, I just get Kanipa Effect. Maybe it's his surname.
I wouldn't know. You're the fan here.
So this is a guy who makes videos about anime, and what it is
he talks about cool.
Yeah, he talks about like animation studios and the animation industry. I think this is the thing that is really cool, is that the thing that holds people at arm's length in the anime industry is that it's an industry that is being produced in a culture and a language that isn't necessarily considered mainstream, even though the medium itself is mainstream, right?
That is true.
Even though we already have a very close relationship with the American entertainment industry, regardless of where you are in the globe, that's not the same with anime. And what this content creator does is that he really pays attention to the people who make anime, the studios that make anime, and like what their styles are and where the anime industry is going.
Right.
And I think it's really, really great stuff. Even if you're not a fan of anime, I think watching this series will make you on board with anime. Because
I am looking at the topics, and this actually looks pretty interesting.
Yeah. So just pick a video that seems interesting to you, and I think you might find this channel incredibly appealing. And that's another thing I've been watching.
That reminds me actually of an anime that I greatly enjoy, an anime and a manga that I read what year is it now? Just last year. Time moves so slowly these days. Everything blends into the next.
What were you reading?
I was reading Bakuman.
What's Bakuman?
It's not a superhero. Don't worry about it. It's about these two best buddies who start out in high school and they decide that they're going to be the greatest manga creators ever.
Oh, cool.
And it's incredible because it charts their rise through the ranks. They start out as newbies, and then eventually they get to the point where their manga is going to be adapted into an actual anime, and the entire mission of the hero of one of the leads. He's the writer. His partner is an artist. The mission of the writer, basically. It's fantastic. Okay, I don't want to spoil it. It's just incredible in how it gives you an insight into the world of manga and anime and the fandom that surrounds it, and also why anyone would be demented enough to try and work in such a demanding profession, because it's incredibly thankless, honestly. And the chances that you're going to become famous off it are next to nil. But they do it out of pure love and passion for it, and I love that. I really do.
So you've been reading
but here's the funny thing. It's actually based on the experiences of some real life artists and writers. And they work in some of those personalities in there. Like the editors at Shonen Jump are caricatured in there. Some of the writers of other manga like Sailor Moon or Hunter are in there. But they don't refer to them by name.
Obviously.
But it's just incredible, honestly.
God. Yeah. I could go on and on for the rest of this episode talking about more and more content. I think we'll have to save that for another day, or we'll post some of these up on the Facebook page.
Absolutely. We got to show people that we're not crazy, that all these things exist.
Yeah, and not just that, but like I think there's a lot of, like, in this time of quarantine, there's a lot of content, to help keep us busy, keep us engaged, and keep us informed and entertained about the pop cultural world around us. And
absolutely,
we here at 3 Point Landing cannot be your only guides.
Wait, we're guiding people? What is wrong with them? Why are they listening? Why are they listening to us? But seriously, guys, it is now. These are scary times that we live in, and wherever you are, we hope you're safe. And if you're working from home, hopefully it's not getting to you. I hear that a lot of people have been having issues because there's no more divide between home and work. So we hope that you guys are staying mentally healthy. And if you have time to check out some of the stuff that we're going to be sharing on the Facebook page in the next couple of weeks, we'll be sharing links to the stuff we talk about. We'll be sharing more quarantine episodes. And we hope that you all can stay safe and come along for the ride.
Nice.
So, until our next quarantine session, this has been 3 Point Landing. I'm Misha.
Who am I?
I don't even know.
I was about to break into Les Mis there, but
I'm sorry. Did you want to do it again?
Let's do it again.
But you're the only one who's going to burst into song.
No, I'm going to actually do this seriously.
Okay. Here we go. You've been listening to 3 Point Landing. Stay tuned for our next quarantine episode. This has been Misha.
This is Matthew.
I thought you were going to do the thing.
What?
I thought you were going to burst into song.
No, I said I'm not going to do it anymore.
I thought you were going to do the song seriously.
No, I'm going to do this seriously, the outro seriously.
But you never do anything seriously. How am I supposed to know? Okay, till next time.
This episode of 3 Point Landing was produced, recorded, and distributed under quarantine by Big Baby Studios. Follow us on Facebook at 3 Point Landing PH.